Okay, so today we're going to talk about the emergence of capitalism and the necessity of capitalism from a mercantilistic system during the Industrial Revolution. So, first question. When Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, what were the primary European goals? Of course, God, glory, and gold. Let's focus on the gold aspect. The overriding desire for gold promoted which economic system? Was it capitalism, communism, mercantilism, or socialism? If you picked mercantilism, you're right, because this is the focus that we're going to be looking at. We've talked about this term bullion and bullionism, and it's the economic health of a nation could be measured by the amount of precious metal, gold or silver, which it possessed. Hard money was a source of prosperity, prestige, and strength for a nation, of course, at this time. Bullionism dictated a favorable balance of trade. You export more than you import. And, of course, high tariffs on imported goods and low tariffs on your exported goods. Or imported raw materials, excuse me. Each nation must try to achieve economic self-sufficiency. Those founding new industries should be rewarded by the state. Thriving agriculture should be carefully encouraged. And of course, you need less imports then. Prosperous farmers could provide a base for taxation, and sea power was necessary to control those foreign markets. There's less need to use the ships of other nations to carry your trade goods, and your own fleet adds to the power and prestige of your nation. Of course, impose internal taxes of all kinds to make more money. Also, mercantilists believe that colonies would provide captive markets for manufactured goods and sources of raw materials, of course. This is the essence of mercantilism, that the mother country always benefits. And so trade is a zero-sum game. A nation can gain in international trade only at the expense of other nations. A large population was needed to provide a domestic labor force to people these colonies, and luxury items should be avoided. They took money out of the economy unnecessarily. State action was needed to regulate and enforce all these economic policies, and so you have state-sponsored trade monopolies. Jean-Baptiste Colbert, the French finance minister, was known as the architect of French mercantilism, and it was also known as Colbertism. He was a bullionist, of course. There are four professions of importance to the French nation: agriculture, trade, army, navy. Probably to any nation, not just the French. Uniform weights and measurements were adopted. He opposed all tolls on internal trade, however. He supported mandatory labor on national roads. Infrastructure is important. Favored a large population, of course. He was a father of 10 or more children, and he would be exempt from taxes. And a father of 10 in France would be exempt from taxes. Favored low wages and child labor. And here he is with Louis XIV's court. Monarchs benefited. Merchant capitalists, not so much. Joint stock companies? No, not really. Government officials? Sometimes. The physiocrats want to change things. Francois Quesnay is a surgeon who turned to medicine because of a failing eyesight. He began publishing economics treatises at the age of 62, but no single document or book summarizes everything he talked about. He was concerned about the state of the French economy, especially French agriculture. In one of his essays, the Tableau économique, he says extreme mercantilism policies of Colbert and others were actually stunting the economy. And he said, here are the three most important economic classes: the landowners, the laborers in the agricultural field, and then the sterile class, the artisans and the merchants. And he said, bottom line, productive work was the source of national wealth. Therefore, the wealth of the nation was derived from agriculture. Agriculture was a productive sector of an economy. He said, tax only the landowning class. Capitalism emerges with Adam Smith, that Scottish fellow, who was appointed to the chair of logic in 1751 at the University of Glasgow, Scotland. In 1752, he transferred to the chair of philosophy, and on his travels to France, he was influenced by the writings of the physiocrats, Quesnay being one of them. 1776, the year of our independence, the theory of moral sentiments and inquiry into the nature of causes of the wealth of nations was published. That's the whole title of The Wealth of Nations. A vehement attack of the mercantilist system, and of course we know him as the founding father of capitalism. So he was making a political argument, not an economic one. And part of the argument was for a new economic policy, of course, but an essential part of the argument was for new social and political arrangements. He argued that the basic unit for social analysis should be the nation, not the state. He was against the belief that trade was a zero-sum game, and it was a positive-sum game. Both nations gained. All nations could gain, basically. Goods and services are produced for profitable exchange, he said. Human labor is a commodity. Labor is the source of value. And so you have these businesses who sell goods and services to households, and households who are the labor and the investments. And the wages paid back to those laborers from the businesses. It's part of the cycle that creates consumer spending. And we know this as a capitalist system. He talked about the invisible hand. The problem is, how do we survive in a world where we must depend on others, many others, but where humans are by nature self-interested individuals? Solution: the free market, he said. While appearing chaotic and unrestrained, it's actually guided to produce the right amount and variety of goods by a so-called invisible hand. Therefore, the basic market mechanism is self-regulating. Individuals seeking success are driven by self-interest and that profit motive. He talked about the law of supply and demand, of course. Individuals who are free to pursue their self-interest will produce goods and services that other people want. That whole supply and demand curve. He talked about the law of competition. This compels producers to be increasingly efficient and to respond to the desires of their consumers. He also talked about a social division of labor will maximize the satisfaction of individual wants and needs given scarce resources. Government should interfere minimally with the free and efficient workings of the market. Laissez-faire, hands off, leave things alone. For next class, be prepared to discuss why is a movement away from mercantilism essential for the success of industrialization.